Dude, he is so good for the dirt.
Yep.
One.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Quadrupod Studios podcast. We've got host Kit Warren behind the mic today, and our guest is Darcy from Last One Standing Strategy, and he's going to be talking about a new program that. Well, we got some serious noise going on here from a truck coming by. Pardon that, folks. But he's going to be talking about some new courses that he has on a new learning platform and many other things. So here, Kit, please take it away, sir.
Welcome, Darcy. That was perfect. An 18-wheeler just cruised on by to introduce you at the Quadrupod Studios. So that's a heavy truck, and you're coming with a heavy load of information for the database of people's minds. It's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome.
Much appreciated, man. I'm glad to be here. It's kind of funny how things work out kind of synergetically like that. Heavy load, bringing a heavy load to, bring in the information.
That's right.
So,
I like to follow the universe and see those signs, and that's a serious sign, because the training that we've been doing, I must say, before we get started here, has been eye-opening in mental abilities for cognitive function, for repairing a lot of PTSD or mental issues. So I'm really proud to have you here, bro.
Oh man, I'm really glad to know that the work we've been doing together has been helping, and I've heard that from a lot of other people in the past about the different training they're doing, not just with me but of all kinds, and they're finding that it's not just relieving stress, but they find that their entire life seems to get a little more organized and just a little better. All they're doing is creating a routine around some sort of movement project, whatever that thing is.
Yep.
And some people, it's as simple as, a few hikes a week, which I know is a big deal for some people these days. But it's definitely, worth it. You're out there, you're within the earth, breathing in the air. You've got the pheromones from the trees coming down, all the different things that our science is just starting to understand, that it seems like primitive people for the last, few million years probably understood better than we do now. I think that just getting out there that few times a week will make a difference, just as a start. But for some of us, as you know, our movement study is a lot bigger, covers a lot more bases.
Yep.
Some people are out there training in multiple different arts a week. Some people are, spending a week at a time hiking in the woods. I got a friend of mine who's doing long distance hiking, ultra light drifter, shot out. He's a pretty rad cat. Follow him on Instagram. That guy is out on foot as much as he can, and that's a really good movement program that is helping all kinds of other things in his life. So like we're saying, we're not only redeveloping the brain through these new mechanics that we're working on, but at the same time, we're aiding in our digestion to burn out things our body might not need. Like it's so multi-layered.
So your focus then is what, for people that you come into contact with training and your goals, for that person, what's the first step, or what's the first thing that you like to focus on as sort of a number one issue that people are facing?
Oh man. Well, as you know, breath work.
Cool.
Right? This
I'm glad
is something
you said that, because we got to fuel our vessel, right?
Yeah, and it's a big one. It's a huge part of the whole thing.
But why is it a big one? What's happening? Some people are forgetting, or what is the thing that people can look to and go, oh, I do that too?
Oh yeah. Well, there's a whole bunch of things. I mean, to start, it's one of those things that we can do anytime, anywhere. Okay. You could be waiting for the bus. You can be on a walk with your wife.
What do you do? What's breath work?
Well, what I like to do, my practice is I fill my belly first with air. I draw down with the diaphragm, and then I fill the lungs, and then I exhale through my nose, exhale through my mouth the same way. So what it ends up looking like is, so I go, so it goes in through the nose, belly first, then lungs, then out through the mouth, lungs, then belly.
Yep.
And I try to make sure that I'm doing that throughout a chunk of the day. And in doing so, I'm allowing my lungs of kind of a full expression of movement, right? Something that happens when people get stressed out is the diaphragm tightens up, which doesn't allow full breaths. So you end up with these small constricted breaths. That leads to all kinds of stuff to do with digestion. That leads to all kinds of stuff to the lower back pain. Because the whole system is completely connected. There's a deep intricacy in the way the system works, all the way from the hair follicles to the taste buds in our mouth. It's all deeply connected and overlapping one another. So the breath work allows this kind of full expression of this vessel within the framework of our DNA. And so being able to do that anytime in your day, is huge. I don't need a special kind of mitt, a special kind of knife. I don't need a special kind of shoe. I can be poor as fuck, and I'll have the ability to train this one thing that will change huge aspects of my life. You add that to training, you add that to other things, and again, your exponential leaps for evolution are unstoppable. So that's why we start with breath, right?
Perfect.
Yeah.
And so number 2 would be what?
Nutrition.
Okay, so fuel of what
it's another
goes
part
in.
of fuel. Yeah, so we've got our different kinds of fuel. Anytime you operate your car, from experience, if you are running on. If you're running an old vehicle, so maybe I shouldn't throw this out as a general term because I'm thinking about people who are probably like 40 plus. But these old vehicles, you could tell a huge difference when you got a new vehicle that was able to burn the fuel a little better. You want to think about your body in a similar way as that you can create an evolution that happens throughout your system on a regular basis, right? Because as much as you may think that this is it, this is the highest pinnacle of the human, it's not. We are still within this framework of evolution. So every single day that you're alive, you are evolving based on your environments. You're evolving based on what you do within your environment, the foods you consume. All this stuff is going to evolve, not just you, but future generations.
Yeah.
We often think that this is it. Big Bang happened. No, Big Bang is happening. We are within this exponential growth. It's happening right now. And especially right now in 2020, we have a time for opportunity in which to further develop our species at higher levels, not of just consciousness, but as physical transformations. We're seeing a crazy amount of people dying from diseases that are things that we can do something about pre-sickness. So things like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, these kind of branch out and create more diseases. Each one of these branches out and creates more problems.
So a lifestyle change is necessary to get past some of these things.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, like if I'm really overweight, there's a chance that I'm not taking full breaths, right? There's a good chance that I'm not getting full kind of absorption of my oxygen. So when I do breathe, my body is rebuilding with half breath.
Yep.
And at the same time, it's operating a half breath. So, I get tired faster. My digestive is not going to work as much because there's all this tightness in my lower region. My lumbar is probably going to be tightened also because, again, there's not that breath that's happening.
I had trouble, sitting on the couch and doing my breath work. And what I found is that if I got motivated by friends to go out and do something like an activity or something, that was the catalyst to get me started on breath work. So breath work could be just like soccer or badminton or ping pong or anything that really gets those engines working, right?
Yeah, well, I mean that's kind of forced breath work. Now you got to remember is when you're putting yourself into that situation in which you're almost forcing that breath to happen. You still have to remember taking those full length breaths, right? Because from yourself when we're training something or we're playing a game, whether it's sparring or something like that, we find that we start to hold our breath more, and then we start to forget things. We start to forget all the stuff we learned. So what I often will teach is is for us to be not just adaptable physically to our environment, our circumstance, but also mentally and emotionally. So let's think, if we are a branch that is stiff and hard, when there's a wind, there's a chance we'll break. If it's a branch like a willow branch, when it's supple and green, the wind comes, it just blows. It adapts to its environment in a way that we have to also, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. Somebody does something we don't like. We can choose to get up in arms about it. We can choose to give them our time, energy, and emotion, or we can choose not to. And I think the latter is probably the route, because then we can take that energy and put it towards something that we're actually interested in.
Perfect.
So when it comes to people arguing on Facebook, each participant in that argument guaranteed has something better they can be doing with their life. Guaranteed. Even, doesn't matter who they are. There's something else that energy can go to.
I kind of enjoy the perceptions or the not the perceptions, but the perspectives of each comments, because then it gives me a sort of a whole of overall views of something that I've posted.
Well, overall views, though, of those that are commenting.
Of those yes. Of
yes,
commenters.
Sir.
Of commenters.
Yes, sir. And that's good. And dialogue is important. So when I say argument, I definitely mean more. I'm making the reference to more like when the conversation has ended, and now it is name calling and attacking.
So that is emotional.
It's emotional
explosions happening, because I would say that the world of plastic holds all these vibrations in the mass of the individual, and there's no outlets. So the person jumping in the ocean or having an outlet rather than unleashing from a blind it's almost like throwing apples over a house and hitting somebody. It's like, where did those come from? It's not a face-to-face thing, right?
For sure. And so, it's missing a lot of content. There's often context that's lost in the conversation. But
texting.
It's texting. But I think you're correct in the sense that it's important to have discussions of different opinions. I think it's extremely important. I know for myself, is one of the ways that I learn. I have a conversation with somebody that have a different perspective. I look up their perspective as much detail as I can find. I learn something, even if it's not to trust that person. It's like I learned something, and so I find it's always worth it. And it's the same way.
So that's your awareness. We were talking about this before. So that's could be. One of those things that people are working on is awareness of the corporation they support, or the people they support, or the actions that they're doing.
It's important. I mean, we've talked before about, one of the most important skills out there, again, other than breath work, is awareness. And, a lot of guys, when they teach something like, let's say, self-defense, they're looking at it from the perspective of the absolute worst case scenario. So let's say we're practicing knife work. We've already made a lot of mistakes. This person has gotten that close to us in that situation. There's some mistakes that have already been made. Realistically, we should have actually seen the problem coming farther down the road.
With our awareness.
Exactly.
And those practices are what? Far seeing, looking at environment. Is it tracking?
Well, there's a lot to it, and tracking definitely is part of it. I like to look at body mechanics. I like to look at body language.
And a lot of people don't really understand what that is. Body mechanics would be signs that you would see and read as a natural animal would in the forest.
Yeah, well, you look at let's say you're walking down the road or you're driving, and you see a person so far away it's actually hard to tell who that is, but in your mind you're like, oh, I know that guy.
From the cadence.
Exactly. What you're reading is it's their cadence and their gait. So you're reading, the distance between their hip, their shoulder, moving at different rhythms.
Cool.
Pardon me. And subconsciously, we pick up on that stuff way faster than we do consciously, right? So your body's like, oh yeah, that's Dave. And then you're like, but is it Dave?
Yeah.
You know, and then he gets
So the
closer and
facial.
closer, and you're like, holy fuck, that is Dave. You know, and it's the same thing. You're in a room with people. You can see a lot in people's pre-attack mechanics.
Yep.
Pre-attack mechanics. People are loading shoulders, loading hips, looking around to see if anybody is watching them. There's all kinds of these indicators that we do subconsciously, and even if we're heavily trained, there's these things called pantomimes that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Someone gets nervous, they scratch their nose, they play with their hand, they play with their hair. There's a whole range of these things that we do. Even if we're well trained in them, we still just do them. So as much as you can be aware of these kinds of things within the people, the humans within your vicinity, even wild animals within your vicinity, it gives you an idea of what is the next move.
Yeah.
What to do next.
And that awareness then protects you, because you can run away, you can move out of the area, you can make the choices that avoid the situation.
You could be crossing the street. It could be as simple as you see a weirdo up the road flailing with his backpack and all his shit on the ground, and you just cross the street.
And we're seeing a lot of that lately.
Tons, man, tons.
I think on Vancouver Island here, we have some people resonating in vibrations that are very unclear, and to sort of have the ability to have awareness around these things and be safe is sort of some of our goals here.
Oh, that's good, T-bro. Yeah, well, you know, that's it. That's why we train. You know, it's people ask all the time, well, why do you put so much time into training and studying these 5 pillars that we've been talking about? You know,
so the 5 pillars.
It's because we run into these situations, and it's better to have the training than to be fucked without the training. You know, as we know from experience. Mm-hmm. So what are the 5 pillars?
5 pillars that we're looking at today starts with some of the things that we talked about.
Yeah.
The fuel.
It's all connected, right?
So that thing, I wanted to talk a little bit about the live fuel that you're getting on your hikes.
Right.
And that live fuel is sort of a dynamic of food that a lot of people aren't receiving. I don't know whether we call it magnetism or energy or your soul food, but that has a different vibration when it's picked fresh. What is that aspect called?
I don't even know how to explain it, but I know that there's been a lot of study on the dirt that we're growing our food in, and the crops that we're basically fueling our entire civilization on. A lot of the fuel systems that those we call them creatures if we want, because they do act a bit like creatures, the plants and mushrooms. These things are being fed, again, kind of a broken system. Yep. You know, they're being given dirt that's full of all kinds of poisons. They're given dirt that is missing a lot of natural compounds that they need to create really good fuel sources for us. So when we're in the woods and we're foraging our way through, even if it's something as small as what we call trail nibble, you know, bits of leaves, bits of greens, maybe some saps, things like that. Yep. All these things are high volume of nutrition comparatively to the foods that we're used to consuming. Mm-hmm. So we are now developing, again, we're going back to evolution. We're now developing a system of evolution that is more in line with what our bodies have been doing for longer. Definitely. Right? You know, eating out of the supermarket with these broken food systems is something that is actually quite new to us, and is something that does not fuel our evolution in the right direction. Mm-hmm. It's something that actually brings us down, you know, because we're then eating food that's basically like cardboard. It's missing all the nutritional values that our body needs.
And that stops the mind from thinking. It stops the body from operating at its optimum, and it stops several things that puts people in a position of mental anxiety.
It's huge. It's huge. You think about what's going on right now with 2020. We're involved in a possible social experiment for all we know. And a lot of people reacting in a way that's probably going to be hard on their years to come. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are getting into what we'd call for them, comfortable lifestyles that are not challenging their body, they're not challenging their minds. They're getting into a kind of a swaddle of comfort. A lot of people develop these kinds of systems of protocol of video games and junk food and eating in during the COVID lockdown here. And a lot of them haven't broken these habits, and especially with this calls for a possible second wave, people are just getting more fortified into these lifestyles. And so I think right now in 2020, it's really important that people start to actually look at their lifestyles and consider they have the chance now, they have the opportunity now to create these high frequency lifestyles. We've talked before about ocean swims. We've talked about how that changes your body, changes your mind. We've talked about breath work, how that changes everything. Nutrition, high level nutrition. Now let's get back to making more shit. Like our grandfathers all had a tool shed, all made stuff they needed around the house. We're now cutting out other countries fueling us with poison products by doing this. Not only that, but we're fueling our mind by giving it small problems to solve. And as humans, we're a problem-solving species. We only create better and better and better and better and better. Problem is, it's at the cost of other people and other systems of survival right now. And so getting back to doing it at more of an organic level, I think, would really change a lot of things within our culture.
Big time.
Just think of all the people that we know that would find purpose.
And so this is a little bit about survival in Babylon, or the system, the concrete jungle. We talk a lot about getting out into the woods as one of these options of healing. And you have developed the 5 pillars, or you follow the 5 pillars of survival. And we talked a little bit about the food and fuel, the breath work to get that body strong. And the second one is fire. So fire being essential when you're out in the woods, and these survival techniques that are sort of different than in the concrete jungle, but now we're in the forest, in the woods, or on the beach. Let's talk a little bit about that fire starting and why that's part of the the second pillar.
There's the 5 pillars. I mean, the reason why I follow them is because they seem to fill the void of having an on-hands mentor. I have many mentors. I read lots of books from people who've passed on now, but had a lot of really good knowledge to share. I have living mentors in this country, out of country, and I draw from all of them all the time. And sometimes I'll be in a moment where I'm not able to ask them something. So I go back to the 5 pillars and I ask myself the question, is this something that is going to add to my 5 pillars of survival? Or is this something that's going to cost me in calories and cost me in hardship? And so when we look at the food aspect of our food, fire, water, shelter, security, the food,
fire, water, shelter, security.
That's right.
5 pillars of survival in any situation.
Yeah, anything. This, and the reason why I teach it this way again is because I want people to be able to get a lot out of this program when they're in really rough situations in ways that I might not have taught it. So I bring it down to 5, right?
And that allows the awareness to sort of be changing the pillars
and develop them to their own needs, right? Okay. So it's not a set program. That's why I come back to the principles of it. So like 5 is an easy number to remember. We got 5 fingers on each hand, 5 toes on each hand. Well, the majority of us anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So we can look at it when we forget one. We're like, oh, there's 5, but what are they all? I can actually count on my hands. So I want to get down to something that somebody can use when they're really stressed out. Maybe they are in a survival situation physically, or maybe they're an emotional one. Mm-hmm. So what they can do is they can look at these 5 pillars as more of a principle-based understanding. So food, nourishment, this could be something that is not necessarily on the physical level. We could be asking ourselves, am I being nourished in this relationship? Am I being nourished in this job? Am I being nourished in this lifestyle? No. Okay, what do I do to make myself feel nourished? What do I need to fill that void? Right? So it can be looked at in a lot of ways. The same thing with fire. What brings me alive? It doesn't have to be just fire to cook my food. It could be what gets me up in the morning, gets me fired up. What allows me to push through the shit in life? What's the fuel for me? Each one of these, the water, the cooling aspect. What is that thing that allows me to fit each vessel like water? To shape to my needs. What is that adaptation? Same thing with shelter. My shelter doesn't have to necessarily be something I make in the woods. Shelter's not even necessarily in my jacket, which it often is. My shelter can be something in which I find comfort. This could be something that's emotional. This could be something that's mental that I find comfort in, that makes me feel safe, or does actually keep me feel
Like maybe
safe.
what you have in front of you guys there, some dominoes. It's kind of that might be
Yeah, this
a
is
comforting
A little game?
to
a little
keep
comfort game to like plug away on.
Yeah.
Precisely. This could be our shelter. And then security. Security could be the aspect of fist fighting. Shelter or security could overlap shelter. I could be putting up a fire in front of the doorway of my shelter when I'm in bear country. There's all kinds of things like this.
So with these assessments, let's say somebody's studying the 5 pillars or using those, and they go through them and then find out their situation or what they've got themselves into or where they are now and how they move forward, and that food seems to be the starting point.
I like it. I like food.
Does it give different vibrations and energies of choice, or what does it do? It's fuel.
Well, like let's look at it from, if we look at it from a strictly physical level, we look at food.
Yep.
I go in the woods and I pick, let's say, a few different kinds of berries.
Mhm.
I eat those berries. There's nutrition in those berries, vitamins and minerals, and all kinds of other chemical compounds that my body needs and remembers from thousands of years of consumption.
Mhm.
Almost immediately, it draws me in like a time machine back into this place of being wild.
Yep.
And that affects our mind. It can not affect our mind.
Does that open up pathways then for healing?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
100%.
Because I've noticed the same things in my hikes and practices. Has always been to consume along the way, and it sort of almost awakens not only body but mind and spirit.
Yeah, 100%.
So
you feel those connections.
Yes.
People will often ask me, well, I really want to get connected to nature. I was into nature when I was a kid, and now I'm not anymore, and I want to be. How do I do that? And I tell them, go in the woods. Go in the woods, breathe the air, put your hands in the dirt, smell the dirt, find something that in there you can eat, and make a point of going back to that spot whenever you can and eating that thing. That's a really simple way to connect really deeply. It is. It's a living meditation.
So that then can alleviate some of the pressures that people are going through, some of the questions they have for themselves.
Oh man,
I've seen and I've heard a lot of troubling stories, and we want to get this message out to people so that they can challenge themselves to have better mind thoughts.
Man, that's it. Is like, if we all win, we all win, right? If our community is strong together, we all win. And so the more we can help each other getting onto these different programs, these just different kind of lifestyle ways, we will see everybody winning. And I find with like the wild food program, getting out there, and I often will say, learn 3 plants, or 3 mushrooms, or 2 mushrooms and 1 plant, whatever it is. Start with something simple. Take a look at what's in your area in high volume. Don't look for exotic stuff at first. Just look for the most 3 common plants, most 3 common mushrooms, and really get to know them in fine detail. When I look at a mushroom, I look at the cap of it. on the top, on the sides, along the ridge of the cap. I look underneath the cap. Does it have gills? Does it have pores? I go right where the cap meets the stalk. I go all the way down the stalk. I detail the stalk. Is it shiny, slimy? Is it hollow? Is it pithed? I go down to the base of the stalk where it meets the ground. I pull away the dirt, take a look to see what the stalk is doing underground. Is it creating a bulb? Is it attaching to something else? Is it coming out at a fine point? All these details of these plants and mushrooms can be studied, and really should be if you want to get to know them properly. Now, in doing so with these first three, you will then inadvertently start to learn about all these other ones that might not be in as high a volume. But because you've now trained your mind to look at those details, you'll be able to pick apart the details that teach you about all these other plants. And we're talking about meditation.
That's
huge.
That's a great way to approach it. Now, some people might need assistance. So, where can they go to hire you or get a course going or get this knowledge of more about the steps of awareness to identify their three plants? Where would they go to find you, Doris?
Well, they can look me up on Instagram as LOS Strategy, and contact me there for any simple questions, or if they want to get some one-on-one training going or group workshops. Also, I've got online training through a platform called Tertia Online.
Cool. Great videos on there. That's a
Yeah,
little more
lots.
in-depth martial arts and knife defense and weapons training.
There's a lot of good stuff on there.
Yeah.
It's a website that is geared mostly towards law enforcement and military, but they've created a space on there for me to teach wild and urban survival.
So we're talking about elite level human beings
Great
that
stuff.
are the top of the planet, top of the world, and that's really what our study is to keep growing and keep getting to those levels. But I'm talking about just the individual that wants to get off the couch, get some breath work. We got a lot of people in Vancouver Island here that really would like to learn your skills, and the opportunity is now, because I know you're traveling the world, going and learning these different arts everywhere. Like last time you were in the Philippines, doing stick
awesome.
fighting, and so to have such a knowledgeable guy here in Vancouver Island, and to utilize these 5 pillars: food, fire, water, shelter, security. They add up to making stronger people.
Oh man. And like I said, the more and more you learn these 5 pillars, the more you can fall back on them in all kinds of situations. And use them again as like a hands-on mentor. And the reason why I like to teach it this way in this kind of principle-based platform learning concept is I want people to come up with what their needs, like what the fixes are for their problems.
Yep.
I don't believe in one martial art that fixes all fighting, because there's so many things that can happen. So I believe in the idea of training broadly for more specific problems.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you a lot of tools that you can utilize for a lot of problems. Instead of just being like, okay, well, I've got a hammer, everything has to be a nail. You now can look at it and be like, okay, well, maybe I can use this other thing to do that thing. Like I'm going to be releasing a video soon on how to use a butter knife as a survival tool. And all the different things that you can do with a butter knife in a survival situation.
Yep.
Which is a lot. It's kind of amazing, actually.
And how you adapt it.
Yeah, exactly. And what you might have to do to manipulate the form of it for different things. And I think that's one of the things that come down to and again, the reason why I teach in the 5 pillars is a lot of guys will decide in their survival that they need certain bits of gear. And for sure, it's nice to have, for comfort, certain types of gear. Problem is, you also have to carry that gear. You also have to be able to find it if you lose it. There's a great movie out there called Yojimbo, old black and white samurai movie. fucking amazing movie. The guy loses his sword halfway through the movie and is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
'Cause he doesn't-
it's not 10 push-ups.
No, he doesn't know what to do now. He doesn't
Yeah.
have a sword. So the kind of lesson of the movie was, like Musashi said, to be only diligent with one weapon is not to be very diligent with it at all. And I think it is really important to be a master of many arts, especially nowadays. I mean, I keep coming back to 2020, and we are in a time in history where the world is going a bit mad. We have this amazing thing called the internet, where it connects us all in hyperspeed, and connects people all over the place. Like, I've been in some tiny little ghettos in other countries where kids are living in huts made out of mud and bits of metal that they found in garbage, and they've got the internet. They're in there on their phones with data, and they're on the internet. Everybody is on the internet. Exactly. And we're in a time in history where we can utilize this for a lot of good. We can spend hours learning all kinds of things from people from all over the planet with using things like YouTube, or again the Tertia Training Academy, or the PTTA, which is a Cali-based learning academy. There's all these amazing programs that are available, but we also have all this other stuff. As our friend mentions, shiny buttons. We have all this crap that catches our eyes, that just draws us in a way that we can no longer learn from these sources. People, they're on their phones.
So time to disconnect a little bit and set schedules where you go out into the woods.
Yes.
and you disconnect from the device and gain some senses and some
you take the stuff
nutrition.
you learn. Take the stuff you learn online,
Yeah.
whether it's the nutrition, whether it's bird watching, whatever it is, and then go to the woods and do the thing. Just have reallocate your time. If I'm spending however many minutes a day on some social media platform, I might be connecting with friends and stuff, but I'm actually learning anything? I've met a lot of guys over the years who watch a shit ton of YouTube, but as soon as they're out in the woods, they can't do any of it. And it's because they don't have the hands-on application. We often talk about dirt time. And dirt time's it, man. You got to get in the dirt and do the thing. And whether we're knife fighting or we're starting fires.
See those nuances, that is the awareness. And once you have the awareness, then the practice becomes doable.
Well, and you those little moments, like let's say we're out in the woods. Let's say it's wet out. I can't find any dry wood, and I have to come up with different ways to create fuel sources. In that struggle, I will remember that struggle. And because of that, I will learn the lessons from that struggle.
Yep.
And I will get better. So next time I go to the woods, I will have some protocol based off of that particular time.
And the beauty is that can be equated to the other struggles you're doing in life with your children, with your
100%.
parents, with your families, with your food-based clothing, your companies. All this stuff that is making the world mad can be averted, and the madness can be pushed away through the forest in these practices. So this is why doing this and getting this podcast out there is so necessary for the mental clarity of Canadians, and then all people around the world.
Oh yeah, well that's it. Is like, again, people we're looking for engagement. We're looking for things to learn. We just don't realize it. Like when people get hooked on these TV shows on Netflix, these series, often it's because they're subconsciously, they want to see what happens next, right? They want to see what happens to the star. They want to see what happens to their people, because they want to know. What do they want to know? They want to learn, right? If you
Fibonacci 369,
dude, it's huge, man. It's huge.
Well, I think it's stagnant, right?
That's it. It's the idle hands.
Yeah.
And it's like, if they had just taken that same half an hour they put into the show, watched a YouTube video for 5 minutes, spent in there 25 minutes working on the thing, whatever it is, you can develop a skill really quickly that way. And
And you become proud of yourself.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. I think that's one of the things nowadays a lot of kids are missing is that self-confidence.
Yes.
And, we're talking about mental health today, to do with, our survival, of what's going on right now. And I think that confidence in self is really important. Like one of the guys I like online, he talks about, purpose.
But we want
over
it
panic.
real. We don't want the class that's like everybody gets Johnny gets the award, everybody gets the award.
No.
It's like there's 30 awards. And
Yeah.
So we want the confidence to be based on the awareness, and the 5 pillars of survival would be a real good guidance to have real confidence.
Well, and it would teach you a confidence that didn't depend on somebody else. So like, we have this kind of phony confidence in our culture now with social media.
Yep.
People got a bunch of likes for dressing and showing off skin or something
and
like that.
Like releases the endorphins that are necessary for our whole biological being.
So let me finish.
Isn't that funny though?
So they dress up, whatever it is they do to get these likes. What ends up happening is they create a confidence based in a misconception.
Yep.
Now, it's only the fact that these other people are liking the photo or the video that allows this person to feel confident.
Mm-hmm.
So they need the other people and their approval.
Yep.
So instead of that, let's look at it like you learn. Let's say you were a small child and you were unable to reach the sink to help your mom do the dishes, but you wanted to because you love your mom and you want to help. So you get a saw, you get a pencil, a ruler, and a couple nails, and you make yourself a bench so you can get up there and you can help mom. Nobody knows about it. It's not on social media. Your mom barely tells any of her friends, but you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you go to get that bench to help your mom do the thing, you feel good. And that kind of confidence is something that I think we're starting to lose in our culture. Because so much of our confidence is based on other people. The
fathers aren't teaching it. The mothers aren't teaching it. Why are we losing it?
I don't think they know about it. I think that it was
Mm-hmm.
something that was not necessarily removed from the household with convenience.
Yep.
But it is something that has been possibly removed with the intention of keeping us as consumers.
Yeah.
Instead of
Makes sense.
adaptable humans.
Yep. A lot of these moves have been to the point of farming and fear control.
Seriously, though.
So that we know that exists. So our models are always to speak about the possibilities of what actions we take to defend from that and improve ourselves and others. Because
100%.
Then we're showing the way rather than speaking of the they or the constructs.
Well, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
We're all. It's something that it's amazing because I am on a number of different social media platforms, and I see a lot of crazy infighting within the same groups based off of new models of thought.
Yep.
Things like intersectional politics. There's things like this that exist that have got people fighting over things that don't really matter to them, things that won't improve their life, won't improve the lives of people around them. But there's all this energy going into it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's replacing our ability to evolve together with this kind of consumeristic kind of point of view. And I think that
separation.
It is. There's a project to separate us, to control us, and there's no conspiracy theory needed. It's easy to look out and see it.
So to hug, to actually be able to high five, and to be those things that we require as a social being shouldn't be shunned upon.
No, we need it. It's something that's kind of has me a bit concerned with the COVID situation is not so much the disease, it's the rhetoric and protocols that have been put in place.
Definitely.
Anybody who's studied health long enough comes across a lot of studies on gut bacteria. They come across a lot of studies on how the bacteria in our skin affects the bacteria on the inside of our body, and how this bacteria works with different foods, and how our body develops based with this bacteria. So, we're not, with the COVID protocols that are being put in place, we're doing a lot to destroy our bacteria.
Yeah.
We're destroying our healthy bacteria
Yes.
constantly.
As a tracker, you can easily see the complications that are now going to happen in other sicknesses.
Yes.
And that's the same thing I see, and the same thing that disturbs me as a Canadian male that is supposed to show strength and leadership and protect others and not fuck with their DNA and put masks on them to harm that ecosystem. It infuriates me,
Yeah,
honestly.
Well, there's a lot going on. I mean, there's something that I haven't since the beginning of this COVID thing. I've been really deeply involved, keeping my eyes open, reading everything I can, and it's the whole thing's really interesting in the sense that the protocols put in place seem more damaging in a lot of ways than helpful. I mean, we've almost heard nothing to do with nutrition, or
Well said,
different ways to build our immune system. I
Yep.
mean, I watch all these different top scientists, doctors, blah blah blah. Names, credits. They almost rarely say, if at all, say anything about all the things that we can do to strengthen our immune system. Like it's almost like they just skipped the idea completely and gone right into this de-evolution phase of destroying our bacteria.
Yep.
It's like that in itself has me a little concerned because it makes me wonder what their plan is, opposed to trusting them.
Yes, and that's not good for a new world order or a new type of introduction to the leaders that are leading this pack on Earth. It doesn't bode well for the actions that are showing.
No.
So better practices are necessary, and those better practices can be forced by a population that is choosing better practices.
Oh yeah, you come back to the lifestyle we were talking about earlier. What we do every day. Not only what we do every day influences our own environment, our own evolution, but it does the environment around us. If I walk a dog every day and I don't pick up its droppings, and other people do the same in a neighborhood, it changes the sidewalk really quickly.
Big time.
It's that simple, and if we are purchasing products constantly from the same companies, we saw it with Amazon during the quarantine, their stocks went through the roof. And a few other of these kind of mega companies did, and it's because that's where the money was going. So we have the ability to vote, quote unquote, with how we live. Not necessarily the paper ballot we put out once a year, or once every few years, depending on who it is we're voting for. I think that it's more about what we do every hour of the day. Like if you are spending hours a day on Facebook or other social media platforms, Twitter, arguing with people whom you probably wouldn't even have a normal conversation with anyway, go read a fucking book. You know what I mean? Go outside and go for a walk, man. It's that simple.
How do people get to change their mind like that?
Breath work.
I like that.
That's
because we go back to
it, man.
We go back to what is missing.
It's the foundation. It's like we were talking about the 5 pillars earlier, and I was saying, one of the reasons why I teach the videos that I teach is because I want to build a foundation. Mm-hmm. So when you sign up to our online platform, you get 5 videos given to you for the first 2 weeks, and then every 2 weeks after you cycle, you get another 5 videos.
I want to subscribe now, bro.
Oh, it's so good.
Where
dude.
do you go for this?
So look up. So you go to Tertia Online. Okay. So it's www.tertiaonline.com.
Mm-hmm.
Go into their store, and then look through their store into supplemental training, and you'll see the 5 pillars of survival there.
Yep.
Sign up right there. It's a $20 subscription a month. So you're getting, for the first 25 videos come out 2 weeks at a time, 5 videos at a time, so a drip feed.
And these videos are on a series of things.
So they're all done in the modules.
Yep.
So your first series of videos are going to be on food. You start looking at food. Sorry. The first ones I think are on fire. My bad. Fire, then shelter. And so the first 2 weeks, you got those 5 videos on your fire. There's enough information there to learn the value of the fire triangle and why it's so important to study, so that you can make fire in all situations in all countries, not
all
just
weather conditions.
All weather conditions, not just what you're used to in the summer or something like that. It's very, very specific in that you study the fire triangle as a principle and to learn that. And so I go through that in that module. And so it's module-based learning. So we go food, fire, water, shelter, security, each have their own 5 videos. After you've cycled through those 25 videos, you then get one video every 2 weeks that's a bit longer, that explains more details and adds more skills to one of those 5 pillars. This way, the reason why I like setting them up this way is because it's a drip feed. This isn't just like a whole bunch of videos that you can go to like a buffet and pick from. This is a kind of a systematic way of opening the mind and developing the lens.
Yep.
We haven't mentioned this on this podcast, but the lens building of the 5 pillars is one of the most important things.
Are you speaking the lens as the person's perception
Yes,
of
sir.
the 5 pillars?
Yes, and their life.
So their eye lens, so they're looking through and they're creating this perception of maybe fear that is going too far in a direction. So what's going to stop people from coming to check your videos out and come to ask you, hey, I need some assistance here, getting past that fear point?
Breath work.
Breath work will reduce the fear, and then the action can be taken and be like, I'm signing up with Darcy and I'm gonna figure out some other cool stuff.
Well, let's do a little round of breath work. We're gonna do We're gonna do 5 rounds of breath work together here.
I like this.
Okay.
Why? Because you guys and you girls out there will be able to use this breath work to pull yourself back into the necessary position of awareness.
Exactly. So anytime you start to feel the stress build up, whether it be an anxious phone call you're having with somebody, whether it be confrontation with your landlord, emotional stuff, whatever it is, this is one of the things I highly suggest you do. Okay, immediately. You can feel your body tight. You can feel all the tenseness going through your body. Okay, you want to kind of loosen that. Make sure your posture is tall. Right, we're sitting here kind of hunched over. We're a bit too comfortable, but realistically, we want to make sure that our spine has all 3 curves that it needs in order to send out that information to all of our body. Okay, this is the way our nervous system works. So our body's tall. Now we're going to breathe in through the nose together, fill the belly, then fill the lungs. Then we're going to breathe out through the mouth, the lungs, then the belly. Okay, we're going to do this 3 times together, all right? Here we go.
That feels fantastic.
And it's simple, right? Simple and it's free. And we can do it whenever we are, anywhere we are.
Feel my fingers, I feel my toes.
And remember to take those that full range of motion. It's the same thing when we throw a cross, a hook, any strike. We get that full range of motion when we do it. When I take breath into my lungs, I fill every crack of my lungs. When I breathe out, I crush out every little bit of air. So I don't have any stagnant air sitting in there. I don't have any of that. I want to make sure that my lungs are really healthy all the way through.
And that oxygen is rebuilding cells. It's creating the body itself and the fuel necessary.
100%. It's one of the most basic yet foundational parts of our existence is this uptake of oxygen.
So that's step 1.
Fuck yeah! Right off the hop, before you dive into anything else.
Step 2, fuel.
Kit's talking about what do I do in order to breach this concern, of anxiety I might have around contacting this guy to learn. Stop, sit. posture up, stand, whatever you got to do, even lie down, and go through that. Go through those breaths. I would suggest doing 10 of them. And it's not going to be easy at first because your body's going to want to do other things, but just make the motion happen.
Cool.
And after those 10, you'll find that you may have a completely different feeling about whatever subject is going on in front of you.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Handles
right?
the emotional
Everything.
Handles the heat,
The
and
angst.
the vibration.
You're driving during
saying words you don't want to say when you're in those levels.
Yeah, you calm the mind. Calm the heart. The other thing this does, like when I'm sparring with guys, I'm not always winning. Like I'm often getting my ass handed to me too by somebody. And in those moments, my body wants to seize up. My body wants to get comfortable, cover my head, and stop breathing. Like that's just like if I just let it do whatever it's going to do, it's probably what it would do, or run away or something.
Yep.
Instead, what I do is I force this breath work.
Yep.
I do this while I'm sparring with guys. I breathe in through the belly, through the lungs, back out through the lungs, through the belly, and I process this constantly throughout my day. And it's whether I'm hitting a hill on my bike, whatever it is,
And the reason why we're focusing so much on this is because your world of hunched over, your world of shallow breath is a world that has to be broken out of to then go to the next steps.
Yes, it is foundational. And like you brought up, nutrition, food, whatever it is you're being fed. You have to remember, if you're watching CNN all day, your brain is being fed CNN all day.
That's a good point. So the TV is really, it's still there. It's in the hand.
Oh yeah.
And the television programming is coming by way of a lot of people playing it themselves.
Yeah, and that's it. Is like we've got
Digger, please be quiet.
we've got
He's
people
attacking a wolf outside.
Yeah, he's keeping us safe
through the
window. I think that too often we get caught in that. We forget that something as simple as reading a book can pull us out of a dire situation. There's a lot of guys who are in prison that start to read.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of guys that find comfort. I say guys, I mean everybody. There's a lot of people who find comfort in stepping outside themselves. And nowadays we often do it with video games, which has its benefits, I'm sure. But the problem with video games is it is telling you what to imagine. Right? It's not exercising the imagination. Mm-hmm. Imagination is a muscle. It needs to be exercised. In martial arts, we have different games that we play, drills that we do, it's like sparring games and stuff, where we have these free play moments. We have that rigid kind of teaching where it's like, okay, here's the proper strike to make sure you get the deepest cut. But now here, let's fuck around and try to stab each other a bit and try out some things that we've been thinking about.
Yep.
That imagination aspect of it is really important. And I think that, the more we teach ourselves through different modalities, whether it be hands-on based learning out in the wild, or whether it's studying through old paperbacks, we're going to find that our mind develops. Again, we go back to evolution. It's going to evolve in a way that just gets better and better and better and better.
Mm-hmm.
So feed it the right stuff. Don't just feed it crap, whether it be visual and emotional. I know some people are hooked on horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
They're not very happy people. They have harder lives than they need to.
Yep.
Whereas if you're eating strong nutritional food, but also intaking good nutritional information, you are not just a healthier person physically and emotionally, but mentally. Now you make decisions that create a better life. Especially where we live here in Victoria, BC, we have it so good here that even if we are homeless, we are taken care of better than some middle class people in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way that we can really mess it up, unless we want to subconsciously.
Well, there's a lot of substance abuse that has the mind, at
100%.
hold, and for a lot of the homeless.
And that's the
people.
poor nutrition. That is the poor food. That is the
Mm-hmm.
bad food that people are putting within themselves. When we get depressed, if we read and study more depressive stuff, it creates more of a spiral.
Yep.
If we get depressed and then focus on something that makes us happy, makes us feel good, it starts to draw us out of that depression.
And that's the breath work
Oh,
that gives those happy thoughts or happy alternatives, because now the vessel's fueled.
Well, our body wants to win.
Yeah.
Our mind, it wants to win. Naturally, we want to feel better. We want to do better. The breath work will allow us to see more of the options that are available in our current situation to improve upon. If I'm in a situation in which I'm really, hypothetically, I'm lost in the woods. I don't have any tools. I don't have any of the stuff I'm used to having. I fell out of my kayak. Everything got dumped. It's sunny, so I'm not freezing to death, but I do need to build a fire so I can do everything else I need to do. There's a lot of ways I can go about this. I can get real mad, have a little cry. I can curse God for doing this to me. I can go about this in a lot of ways. Or I can simply pick up the pieces, look at the problem, and then look at the opportunities that are available within my natural resources.
Yep.
And in doing so, I will do better.
Which would be a better practice.
Far better.
So to take action.
Right away. A call to action. And, it comes back to what I said earlier. Purpose over panic.
Yep.
Every fucking time. Purpose over panic.
You had another one that was the C's.
Yes, sir. The 5 C's.
5 C's. Can you run through that?
So, okay, so we get popped out of our kayak. I'm freezing. I get back onto the land. I'm out of breath. I just have to take a minute. I go through my breath work, right? I just finished fighting through some crazy water, choking up water. Now I go through my breath work. Now I start to look around what's available. I look at the 5 C's. Okay, my 5 C's is something I picked up from a guy who runs a school called the Pathfinder School down in the States, David Canterbury. Amazing teacher. He's on YouTube. He's on Instagram. He's on all kinds of social media. He's also got books out. I highly suggest looking into him. He's really, really, really well educated in a lot of things. He says, mentor. Yeah, another mentor, another guy. Never met me before, but that guy has shaped my life in a lot of ways. So he says the 5 C's, and the 5 C's of survival are, again, 5 basics, right? So you've got your cordage. Okay, your cordage could be damn near anything that can tie stuff up.
Rope, twine,
seaweed, roots.
Okay.
It could be branches that have been split. This idea, it could be a ripped shirt. Cordage could be freaking huge.
Okay.
So the 5 C's is like the 5 pillars, and they're ideas that can be unpacked and then adapted to the situation that you're in. Because if I'm in an urban environment in the back alley somewhere, my cordage abilities are going to be different than that if I'm in the rainforest on the west coast of BC.
All ecosystems.
Exactly. It's ecosystem based.
Yep.
Okay. So if I'm in the woods and the situation is unfolded, I'm cold, I'm tired, I'm starting to realize I need to develop my survival protocol. So I've got my 5 pillars I go into, my cordage, my cutter. Cutter could be a rock. Okay, this could be a knife. It could be a piece of glass. The cutter can be just about anything I can think of that will help me to create, help me to cut things and shape things.
Make spoons, make things.
There's so much, right?
Cool.
So we've got, so far our first 2 is our cordage and our cutter.
Yep.
Then we got combustion. So combustion is really important. It can be, combustion could be our lens from our binocular, and we took out the lens and we're using that now to start fires because we've lost our lighter, our matches, and our ferrocerium. Our combustion can be a light that is set into the ground in front of a fancy building that is left on all night. That light will create heat. I can use that heat to either dry my clothes, keep myself warm, or cook food on a very slow simmer. There's all different sorts of ways to add these 5 C's into your urban and your wilderness. So we've got our cordage, our cutter, our combustion, now our container. My container could be all kinds of things. My container is a way that I hold things, carry things from A to B. This can be a backpack. This could be a water bottle. This could be a shirt or a hammock that I've tied up in a way to make it so I can carry stuff like a conveyance.
So getting creative with what is available.
Man, it comes back to the imagination. Like I was talking earlier, imagination is key. It needs to be developed. It needs to be trained. It needs to be played with. So we've got our cordage, our cutter, our combustion, our container. Now we've got our cover. Cover could be anything. It could be a tarp.
And it's kind of close to all of the pillars.
That's right. And that's why I like to use them together.
Yes.
They all overlap. So when I go into a situation, boom, I just fell off my kayak. I'm soaking wet. I'm in the BC West Coast, but it's dry because it's summer. Okay, my initial needs are not necessarily going to be the same every time, depending on where I am and what I have.
Yep.
So I fall out of my boat. I'm wet. My first thing I'm going to do is fire. Okay. If I was on a boat in let's say in a tropical country and our boat sank and I got myself to shore in the tropics, fire's not going to be the first thing that I focus on. Probably going to be shelter because I want to get out of the sun, and then next is going to be water because I need some hydration because of the heat. So the 5 pillars, it's really important to look at them as something that can be manipulated depending on your needs. Let's say I'm in an urban environment, and I am it's nighttime, and I have to sleep downtown for whatever reason, and I'm homeless. My 5 pillars are going to be leaning towards shelter and security. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at how to build my shelter in a place that necessarily won't be able to be seen by just anybody else, or I have it set up so there's booby traps that alert me to anybody else coming close to me.
So basically, you're using your environment, your time, and where you are to add the pillars of what is necessary.
Always.
That's a good action plan and awareness plan.
And it keeps us adaptable.
Yeah.
Again, we come back to that branch in the wind, right? We want to be very adaptable to each situation. So if we're studying in this kind of principle-based idea, we're able to manipulate each one of these skill sets dependent on the environment and our immediate goals. And it's the same thing with the 5 C's. Like, again, we're in the city. There's broken glass all over the place. I can get a piece of broken glass. I can find a piece of bubble gum or something, and I can use that to stick it between some rolled up newspaper. So I now have a cutting tool, and
Resourceful.
Yeah, exactly. And it's back to the imagination.
And getting resourceful for your health and wellness and your mental abilities is really what we're all about.
Well, it's about
assisting people through these troubled times with all these arts. I want to really thank you for coming on here and being part of this today. And I think that people are going to look to some of your practices that we talked about and see the success immediately, especially with the breath.
Oh yeah,
breath being the first one that it's necessary for everybody. Getting outside, getting the real oxygen, getting the terpenes and that freshness to then make the decisions that are necessary for their lives and their families.
Yeah, 100%.
Right on, Darcy.
Again, is there anything else that you wanted to add before I just kind of thought that we've touched on so much, but we've got more to talk about in water, shelter, and security.
Man,
videos.
this could go on forever, really.
We're at about an hour and 20 minutes or so we may as well
let's clip
kind
it
of
there.
wind down. And
well, you know what we should do? We'll come back with a round 2. And we'll dive into detail.
We need a show daily on this subject,
no
man.
Shit.
Well, that's where folks can visit Tersia online, which is TIRSIA online, and look for Darcy. I went to you go to the store and then scroll down, and then it's in the like you said, supplemental area where and that's where they can get sounds like 5 videos every
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
The first, so you get the first initial study is 25 videos, and then what we're doing is we're putting out 5 videos every 2 weeks for the first 25. So you get quite a large saturation of information in those first few weeks or first couple months. The idea is that I want people. There's techniques I'm training. Sharing and training, but I also actually want people to get an idea of the possibilities within the context that they're in, whether it's urban or wild. I want them to develop that lens like we talked earlier, more so than just focusing on the skill itself. Look at the principle behind the skill. That way you can apply it anywhere.
Then they're adaptable to take those skills, utilize in their life. Maybe it's a lifestyle change or adaptation, but it will definitely increase the possibilities of success for whatever their focus is.
Yeah, 100%.
And I've been, practicing the arts with you. We train quite a bit, and in the practice, it has improved my abilities and footwork and mental cognitive things. And I've been really blessed with having you teach me all this cool shit.
I'm grateful to have such a good student, brother.
Oh,
Right on. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Again, tertiaonline.com, LOS Strategy on Instagram, and just us Quadrupod Studios on Facebook here. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and just be better in every moment. Thank you.
yes.
Take care.